Reciprocity is about being reciprocal. So I do something for you and you do something for me. And that all means that you will get stronger relationships.
Welcome to The Fearless Foodie, the podcast that gets honest about what it really takes to thrive in food and retail. I'm Amy Wilkinson, coach, speaker and trusted partner to food industry teams with lived experience of the pace, pressure and politics that come with the job. Fearless Foodies cut through the fluff and get straight to what actually helps. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Let's dive in.
Hello, quick bonus episode from me to mark International Women's Day today. But before we go any further, I want to say this. If you're a man, don't switch off. This episode is for men as well as the women as any gender, because what we're talking about today isn't about blame or boxes or being told what you're doing wrong. It's about how careers actually move forward at work. It's about how influence really works and how backing other people deliberately makes teams, cultures, and actually your own working life better. So wherever you sit, this is going to be relevant. And I talk about it all the time. And I feel like if we can back each other, we can be the change that we want to see within the food industry. Every International Women's Day comes with big, important themes. And the UN theme this year is around justice and action and rights for women. And of course, I believe in all of that. But I don't know if you also know that there is a more commercialized version, and that often is the one that we see on social media. And that version of International Women's Day is Give to Gain. And I'm actually going to go with that one as the theme for today, because I think all that systemic change, the rights for women, of course, it really matters. But sometimes when you listen to a podcast for 10 minutes and you're thinking about your day-to-day job, it's quite hard to translate to what that means for you as an individual working in the food industry. So today I have chosen the theme of Give to Gain because it firmly sits in the day-to-day behaviours that we can shape, things that we can do to make sure the right people get heard, the right people get the opportunities in the food industry. And like I've said, together we can make the change that we want to see in the industry. And the truth is, when advocacy and sponsorship work better in an organisation, everybody benefits, not just that individual. So just to ground this in reality for a moment, we are seeing improvements for women. So women now hold around 43% of FTSE 350 board roles, but only about 35% within senior leadership roles. And yes, the gender pay gap is closing, but it's still got a long way to go. And the reality is the pipeline into leadership is still quite leaky. We see that women are much more likely to leave a leadership role once they've made it into that role. And that's not just a women's problem. It affects decision making, it affects performance, it affects sustainability, and it affects the culture in organisations. And here's something most people recognise once it's said out loud. A lot of careers don't move forward because somebody worked harder. Working harder rarely gets you noticed and promoted. It might do to start with, but actually often it just gets you more work, but it doesn't get you that next step. A lot of career moves happen because somebody spoke their name in a room that they weren't in. And that might sound like things like, you should get her involved in this role. She'd be great for that role. Let's bring that person into this conversation. And I was thinking about it. I was at an event recently and I was on a table with a lot of men, actually. There was only a couple of women on the table. And this man said to me, we'd met before and he knew I'd got a podcast. And he said to me, there's somebody over there. I've got to introduce you to them. You've got to get them on your podcast. And so it wasn't some big ceremony. It wasn't like I'm doing this massive advocacy thing and like some massive introduction, but actually that was advocacy doing its thing. And that's how opportunities get distributed. And I do think that it's something that comes a lot more naturally to men than it does to women. And this is where the research matters in these matters. So I was reading something about actually only 31% of entry-level women say that they have a sponsor. So somebody that is is sponsoring them outside of that room, is pushing them for opportunities, compared to 45% of men. And what I'll say is a sponsor isn't the same as having a mentor, and that there's absolutely real benefits to having a mentor. But having mentors helps you think. But women don't need more mentoring. They need more sponsors. They need sponsors who are people that are using their influence to open doors for them. And actually, for the men listening, this is where male advocacy can be really powerful, because in many organisations, particularly in manufacturing, in operations roles, and still in senior leadership in the food industry, it's still men that hold a lot of the influence. So if you're a man listening, one of the most impactful things you can do isn't some grand gesture or statement. It's the everyday moments where you back a woman, you sponsor a woman, you put a woman forward for opportunities, you give them credit publicly, you think about how you act so that you are not talking over a woman in a meeting. You notice who is being overlooked and you draw them into the conversation. And you make sure that you're making those introductions so that you are widening access to those women that are within your organisation. And the reason you should do that, whether you're a man or a woman, is because it strengthens your team. It reduces burnout because we're not all working all that hours God sends to try and prove ourselves. And it actually improves overall performance for everybody.
All right, time to give a quick shout out to the people making this podcast happen. These are the brilliant sponsors backing bold, fearless conversations like this one. Let's hear from them. Ever chased a test result at 5:59 p.m. on a Friday? Yeah, we've been there too. That's why we're proud to be partnered with IFP Labs, a lab network that actually gets what it's like to work in food. They support businesses across Europe with accredited testing for food, feed, swabs, water and more. And they do it with a quick turnaround, expert insight and genuinely reliable service. IFP Labs is a laboratory network made up of companies who we know and trust because they're already supporting the people behind the products you love. Check them out at ifp-labs.com and breathe a little easier next time you've got a product launch riding on that test report. If you're a woman working in food or retail and craving connection that isn't all small talk and job titles, come join Fearless Women Connect. Our free monthly sessions include lunch and learns with fresh ideas and friendly faces, plus Cuppa Connect, an informal chat inspired by the podcast, where we ditch the hierarchy and talk honestly about work and life. Sign up for free at the Fearless Foodies website. We'd love to see you there. And we're back. Let's dive right in.
One of the questions that I kind of had when I was putting all of this together and thinking about this episode was, why don't we do this more? Why do women not seem to advocate and sponsor and introduce network in the same way as men do? And I think when it comes to things like networking, it's the traditional way things have been done, in person, breakfast meetings on the golf course, things that when you are more likely to have caring responsibilities, which women often do, you are less likely to do. And you're less likely to prioritise those things because you're just trying to hold everything together and you've got overload. You're just trying to get through the week, keeping everybody alive. But there is also that fear of looking like you're biased. You don't want to be standing out as somebody who's a bit too much of a feminist because, that might be seen as a threat to others. It might feel uncomfortable to feel like you're playing the game. And I'm going to call it out because it does happen. It might also be because you're being a bit competitive, because you know that it's kind of that scarcity thinking that if there's only going to be one woman that gets to the top, it's going to be you. And you do see that. And I'm not going to say that you don't. I know a lot of women that have had to fight their way to the top are not necessarily advocating for others. They might be harsher on the women around them because they think, well, I had it hard, so why can't you have it hard too? But the thing is, if we don't back ourselves, if capable people aren't being actively backed, you know what happens? Those incompetent people get promoted. We get the same voices in every room. The same voices dominate. And that's why we want diversity, because ultimately we lose out from not having that diverse thought, whether that is gender diversity or other types of diversity. Again, I was thinking this at an event I was at recently where, it's still really evident in the food industry where, there's a lot of men in grey suits, a lot of men saying the same things, and actually the women standing up and speaking up, but there's not enough of us doing that. And what I also wanted to say, because give to gain is not just about giving, you do get something back for it. Because advocacy of others isn't about charity, because actually when you back others, what you gain is a reputation as somebody who develops talent, who cares about other people. It actually helps you to be an influencer that connects people and a trusted voice. And this is something that I've really learned to develop over the last 5 years since I set up my business, is actually introducing people to the right people can make you somebody that people want to be in the same room as. So it does have a benefit to you as well. And I'm going to try and say the word now. Whenever anybody that's been to a workshop with me will know I always get it wrong. It makes for reciprocity. I said it. Reciprocity is about being reciprocal. So I do something for you and you do something for me. And that means that you will get stronger relationships. And it means that people will perform better because, they can see that you're backing them. And frankly, it's a good thing to do. And it creates a healthier culture where people are backing each other and not backstabbing each other. So yes, other people benefit, but you benefit too. And it helps to improve your own working life as well. So that's the gain that we get with this. And I am so passionate about the change that we need to see in the industry. I do think there is too much burnout, there is too much toxicity, there is too much of doing it the way that we've always done. And I would love to see that change. And by giving to others and doing what I do, I am hoping that the gain is that together we can be that change. So I want you to take one thing away from today's podcast, and that is to think of one woman, and we're going with a woman today because it's International Women's Day, and think about what is one way you could lift them up and increase their visibility this week. And here's the other side of it. If you are the person that feels like, I'm not in a place to do that, but I need it. If you need support, go and ask somebody for it. Ask somebody that you trust and say, if opportunities come up, would you put my name forward for them? It's not entitlement. It's being clear on what you want and what you need, because people don't know. So either increase somebody's visibility this week or ask somebody else to increase yours, because we are about shining the light on how advocacy for one another can really help everybody in the food industry. International Women's Day is here to shine a light on the big issues, and give to gain is part of how we can live that out in real life, in meetings, in messages, in decisions, in conversations. It's the small actions that are all going to build up and create real momentum and the change we want to see in the food industry. So for now, be bold, be brave, be fearless, and be an advocate for a woman in your network. See you next time.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Fearless Foodie. If it hit home, subscribe, leave a review and share it with someone who's ready for less fluff and more real talk. And if you're ready to build a bolder, braver, more brilliant team, come find me at fearlessfoodies.co.uk. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be fearless.